Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. Today is going to be a rather special Would You Rather. And I was actually going to I was debating about answering this question that was asked to me in my Q&A video that I do on Wednesdays. But instead I figured, hey, this would be a good, really great topic for a Would You Rather segment. So somebody asked me, it was Leos, who wrote the following. He asked me, thinking of buying a Silver Age book, X-Men #1, a lower grade, and he was worried. He was wondering about buying that or a Mantle baseball card from 1953. So those were the two choices: like get a low grade X-Men 1, or a 53 series of Mickey Mantle. Actually, what I did for this challenge was this Would You Rather is a little different. I actually looked at the 52 Mantle card. So the #1 card of all baseball cards is the Mickey Mantle Topps 311. It's kind of, it's not really the first rookie card for Mickey Mantle, but it's the one that Topps made. The actual first rookie card for Mickey Mantle was actually from 1951 from Bowman, which is kind of a little bit of an aside. But the Topps 311, which is kind of the most famous card, is just, the image is iconic, and it's one of those ones that is loved by baseball card collectors. As I said, it's considered the most important and most valuable baseball card of all time. So to give you a little bit of, so we're comparing that. I'm going to use that as the reference because I think you can actually get in on that book, that card, as an investment, and I'll explain how and why and all that. Versus, and this is the versus X-Men. Okay, X-Men 1. This is my X-Men 1. This is not the one you'd get. This is an X-Men 1 of 0.5, really low grade, pretty rough, but it's kind of a big book as well. So I'm going to compare the two books. And the grades that I'm picking. So entry level, kind of like slightly above entry level for a Mickey Mantle card, is a fair, or like a fair 1.5 on the scale for Mickey Mantle cards. And that typically goes for around $36,000. So pretty valuable card, okay? X-Men 1 in that $36,000 range. Right now, the book, the X-Men 1, is kind of coming down a bit. So you can actually pick up an X-Men X-Men 1 in a 7.5, which is a really nice presenting book, for the same price as a really low grade Mickey Mantle card. So let's get into the numbers. Let's kind of go through it, and I'm going to tell some stories as well about both books, both items. So a little bit more about the two options. So the card, there's actually, even though it's a rare card, it's like, production was not that big at the time, there are still 1,800 of those cards that have been graded and that are known to exist. Compare that to X-Men 1. X-Men 1 is much more common. X-Men 1 has about 5,896 on the census. So about 3 times, almost, 3 times more X-Men 1s than the Mickey Mantle. So, that's one thing to realize. But also, you got to realize this too about the two options. There are a lot more baseball card collectors. It's in a way better market than there are comic collectors, and that's debatable. Like, I'd love to hear the debate about that, whether you feel that there's more comic collectors or more baseball card collectors. Now, the difference would be a Mickey Mantle card is kind of like, it is mainly collected by Americans for the most part. I mean, there are people outside of America that would collect it, whereas X-Men 1, though, would be collected by people around the world. You know, anyone that knows X-Men would be probably interested in X-Men 1. So that's one thing to kind of consider. But, you know, the Mickey Mantle card is, as I said, it's considered the number one choice as a baseball card. So the number of people that would want that within the baseball collecting community would be a much greater pool than compared to X-Men 1, which is not considered to be the best book of all time, like an action one, or like a Detective 27, or like there's so many other books that you can think of over X-Men 1. So we're comparing the number one baseball card versus maybe a top 50 kind of book. I mean, X-Men 1 is considered a great book, but it's not the great book. So if that makes sense. I would say it's in that top 50 range. So just things to think about. Now, another thing with the Mickey Mantle card, there was actually kind of an interesting story. So one of the things that usually kills prices whenever you think of, oh, what would be the worst thing to happen like in terms of the value of a book or value of a card, is a warehouse find. So there was actually a warehouse find, kind of, for the Mickey Mantle card. So what happened was Alan Rosen, he's known as the Mr. Mint. He's kind of the guy that, you know, is kind of associated with those high, you know, graded copies of these baseball cards. And he, in the 1980s, he got a phone call from a guy that said he had a collection of baseball cards, high grade. And they were from the 50s, okay? And what it was this guy from Boston who was a delivery truck guy, and the order got kind of messed up, and a shipment of baseball cards that was meant to be delivered didn't get delivered. And so this box, like, which had multiple decks in it, was sitting in this guy's basement for 30 years. So just sitting there, undelivered baseball cards. So the guy comes in and he's like, you know, this Alan Rosen guy comes in, he opens it up, and it's like he's going through, it's like 306, 307, 308, and 309, 310, 311. And then he pulls out, you know, 311. He's like, oh, that's awesome. But then he pulls out another one, and another one, and another one. And there was 75 mint copies of the card. So lots of them. That's a pretty big find. And he sort of cherry picked out his, you know, the one that he thought was the best, and he bought that. I think he paid like $1,000 or something like that. It was like, it was very little. He later flipped it for $50,000. And that card has been sort of floating around within the card collecting community. And it recently came up for auction in August of 22 for $12 million. So it's gone up a bit over that time since the 80s when it was first found. So that's good and bad. So that, you know, it shows that card, even though there was lots of cards found in that collection, it really did maintain, you know, a fair amount of value. Now all of those cards didn't go into that, you know, Alan Rosen's collection, only that one, and the others kind of floated around, and they also some of them got graded, some just, you know, got kind of mangled in the process. I don't know what happened to them, but there's only in the highest grade of card, there's 3 for the Mickey Mantle card. In the second highest grade, it's like 6, and then so forth. Most of the cards are actually pretty low grade. In terms of X-Men now, let's compare that to X-Men. X-Men's actually rarer as a 9/8. So there are only 2 9/8 X-Men number 1s. And there are 4 X-Men 9/6s. So really quite rare at that high grade. So actually the mantles, the high grade mantles are more common than the high grade X-Men, just as a weird kind of thing. Now, you can buy, a 9.2 or what? Not a 9.2. Like a MT, which is a mint 9 baseball card, for around 4.2 million. So it goes up pretty considerably with that half grade boost within the card community. And as I said, there's actually a fair amount of these fair ones, which is a 1.5, which is kind of an entry level card, that you can pick up for that $36,000 range. So, is it something that people would want to buy? So yeah, I think it's one of those. As I said, it's the number one card. It's the pinnacle of baseball cards. Compared to that is X-Men 1. So now here's the cool thing about X-Men 1. Now with the Mantle card, a lot of the value really relies on the past sales. Just when Amazing Fantasy had the big sale, well, what you get is the trickle down effect, right? All the other things sold for more because people are like, oh wow, this book is really skyrocketing, it's gonna it's the big thing. So you get that trickle down effect. And that can also happen with this Mantle card because of the fact that there was this big sale and people get excited about the card, they want to get into it, even that low grade one, they want to get into it just to have it, right? So you can have that effect. Well, the cool thing about X-Men 1 is a couple things. The last big sale for X-Men 1 was for $492,936. So just under 500,000. Keep it simple. Well, for a 9.8, but that happened in 2012. So there hasn't been a really recent sale for the highest graded 9.8, but there has been a recent sale for the 9.6. And the recent sale for the 9.6 was September of 2022, which is kind of a good thing, kind of a bad thing, because it sold for $871,000, but that was kind of, it was kind of at a time where the market was kind of waning, and it might have realized more. It might have been $1 million book had it been sold maybe in 2021 when the peak of the comic market. So the 9.6 actually sold on a down market, but it sold for more than the 9.8. So if a 9.8 came out, you would expect it to sell for 2 to 3 times what the 9.6 sold for. So you would expect it to go for around that $2.4 million range is what I would sort of guess it to be worth. 2.4, maybe 3 million at the peak. So, it's kind of they're kind of comparable in the card versus the comic in some ways. Okay, so now the question becomes, which would you rather have? Would you rather have this penultimate, baseball card that in a way it is considered like the baseball card, but it is of a bygone era. It's a rookie card from 1952. The younger generation will be less familiar with that baseball player, even though he's considered one of the greatest baseball players of all time. Not the greatest, but one of the greatest. It's a very iconic picture on the card, but it's something that there is no renewed interest. It's like, it is a cool card and all that kind of stuff. And you can argue with me. I'm not a baseball card collector, so you can argue with me on that one. The X-Men 1, though, it's still relevant in today's culture. And within the comic collecting community, there's a new movie that's going to be announced. There's a new TV series that's going to be announced. So there's things that are rekindling that interest in the book based on, just the atmosphere of like X-Men 1 and like people interested in X-Men characters. The other thing that's kind of big about X-Men number 1 is unlike the card, which is a first appearance in a way, I guess it would be like first baseball appearance, but not truly because there's an earlier card, but it's a semi-first appearance kind of thing, is that the X-Men one features many first appearances. It's the first appearance of the team X-Men. It is also the first appearance of Magneto, Professor X, Iceman, Beastman, Jean Grey. It's like so many characters got their first appearance in this one book. So there's like a lot of things to kind of give it some value. So even if there's no X-Men movie, there might be a Beastman, Beastman movie or something, or there might be a movie with any of these characters in a solo sort of situation. Okay, so there's things there, right, to think about. Those are the big considerations. So, which would you rather have? As a comic collector, obviously, I would choose the X-Men one. And also because you could get it in that nice grade of a 7.5, and it's really a good time to buy an X-Men one because right now the prices have come back down. And you might even be able to, like, if you're really lucky, because I see that the even a 7.5 at that price of 30 some odd thousand has actually some more room to come down. So you can even pick it up slightly cheaper than that because the market is correcting. And once things kind of recover, that book can come back up to its old historical highs. So that's why I would choose it. But I'd love to hear which of the two options would you choose. Would you choose X-Men 1 in a 7.5, not a 0.5? This is not a pretty book. But or would you choose a 7.5 of X-Men number 1 or a 1.5 of Topps 311, which is the rookie card for Mickey Mantle? So I'd love to hear the people's comments in the comments below, and please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for more of this kind of would you rather stuff and some other cool stuff that I do on my channel. And I'd love to hear people's opinion. I will also do a survey to see what people choose. I'd love to hear people's thoughts on this. This is going to be an interesting one. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.